Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, my friends. I didn't know we had a Katie visit this morning. Man, Dave, I love you, buddy, but, this just brightens my day.
Well, Sam, you brighten my day, especially considering the fact that I have to sit across from him.
Wow,
So
look at that.
Yeah. That's the thing. You brighten my day, and I also have great empathy for what you're going through.
Two of my closest friends in media right here. Sam, she just so you know, before you came on, she asked me where, because I told everybody you were Nature Sam today. And she asked me specifically where you were camping. I said, I'm not divulging, because then next thing you know, there will be people there messing with your family time, wanting selfies, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh,
but,
sure. Yeah.
But it turns out Sam is in a place that my dad used to take me all the time to go fishing growing up.
Really?
It's one of my favorite places in Northern California.
Yeah, so I don't mind divulging.
Go ahead.
Because we're gonna be here for another 17 minutes. The Ice House Reservoir. Yes.
Oh.
Just up the road. It's about 90 minutes. It's kind of like pre-Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
Up to Tahoe. Nice
So
little joint. We had a good time.
Up 80 or at 50?
Up 50.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you pass it. I forget the exit. I think it might actually say Ice House on it. But it's, yeah. No, it's good, though. I was telling Dave when we were texting that it's unorthodox, not normally getting away right before the draft.
Right.
But to be honest with you, we have such a deep roster at our company and our place that decided to unplug for a couple of days. But we're heading back tonight to see what action awaits on the draft front.
Well, good for you.
And you know that Sam is trying to spend quality time with his family because a bunch of stuff happened in the NBA last night, which never fails. Just indiscriminately going crazy. There was a deal, then there wasn't a deal, then there was a deal. Look, I Full disclosure, as you said, that you've been on vacation with the kiddos and all that, but I know you're paying attention. Marcus Smart to Memphis, Kristaps Porzingis to Boston, Washington gets Tyus Jones and some things. Do you have an early thought on anything that stood out to you about this trade?
I do. Before I dive in there, as a quick aside, you kind of alluded to it. Shout out our draft expert at our place, Sam Bassini, who does a great job. And honestly, he's kind of the reason that I was able to pull away. It's like, this is his time of year. But, and I probably wouldn't admit this to Sam, I'll say it on your guys' show. Sam called me yesterday, and I did not share with Sam that I was in the woods. And he's going, man, what are you hearing on Charlotte? What are you hearing on this? And I'm just like, oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. What am I hearing? I'm hearing birds and wolves and all kinds of stuff.
Frogs.
Not much. It's all quiet right now. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of chirping, but nothing solid.
Exactly. Right. A lot of smoke screens. The trade is so interesting. I don't know what direction you guys kind of want to, look at it from, but what comes to mind for me first and foremost is the Boston side. I just read a column from one of our Celtics guys, Jared Weiss, about Marcus Smart, and he kind of captured well what Marcus meant to their program. So I understand the move, the idea of changing the attack and bringing in a guy like Porzingis who's going to extend, and give them more versatility offensively, more length defensively. But like Jared wrote, it's like, all right, leadership-wise, culture-wise, Marcus was their guy, all the way down to the green hair and the kind of infamous and very important moment when he was the one, I guess 2 years ago now, who called out Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for not moving the ball well enough. Like, he was their truth teller, and I understand what they're doing, but, the idea of Marcus not wearing Celtics green is going to be really interesting to see not only what the roster ends up looking like, but how they kind of fill that massive void. Conversely, I do think it's a good time for a guy who's wired like Marcus, a grown man, a guy who is not afraid to tell people what they need to hear. It's a good guy to have around Ja Morant right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be, picking up the slack while Ja's out. And then I don't know their relationship, but in terms of the profile, I think it's good there. The Wizards part is, my goodness. I mean, it's a talented front office, but gosh, like, you look at the Bradley Beal deal and the Porzingis deal, you're getting off your two best players without getting any first round picks in return. And I understand why, to a degree. The Beal no trade clause made that situation incredibly hard. This one probably less excusable. So, they're starting over, but it's been pretty ugly so far.
Memphis having the last two reigning defensive players of the year, swapping out Dylan Brooks for Marcus Smart, really giving up, Tyus Jones and a couple of what I imagine will be mid to late round firsts. Have you assigned a winner in your head yet? Because I got to be honest, man, I'm kind of scared of what the Grizzlies could be next year if Ja figures it out.
Yeah, probably Memphis, because it's funny, in that same Celtics column that I mentioned, it kind of authoritatively stated that the Celtics got the best player in the deal. And I understand the point, but I don't know if I agree. Porzingis, what we want him to be and what he is have been two different things. And he's had good moments. I understand that. But Marcus Smart is still, he's I forget the exact age, but he's still got a lot of good years left. Yeah. He's younger than people think. And yeah, defensively, the idea of Jaren Jackson Jr. stopping things down low, Marcus being switchable, and kind of igniting their defense even more so than before on the wings. And then again, just the character and the heart and the hustle. Like you talk about, them wanting all the smoke, which is kind of their infamous comment that has not held up well over the course of time. Like it's, Marcus does fit that ethos. He is somebody who never backs down. And I agree. Once they are whole, Tyus Jones is a fantastic point guard and a guy that could have run our team reasonably well while Ja was out.
I think the best assist to turnover ratio in the league the last 2 years. Like he was very solid.
100%. And now you kind of wonder, all right, what's his future? Is it in Washington? Is it somewhere else? I don't know. I would love to see that guy in a winning environment because he is so good. But it's defensively, Dave, to your point, I'm with you. I think that they could be nasty. And especially like more specifically, I know I'm the Nuggets are the reigning champs, so I shouldn't be sitting here acting like the Warriors are still the king of the mountain. But, I've watched a lot of Celtics Warriors games where Marcus Smart made life tough on the Warriors wings, which for the Grizzlies purposes is a good thing.
Sam Amick of The Athletic joining us. Sam, I've got to ask you, when you look at this deal, and originally this was a 3-team deal, working with the Clippers and Boston, obviously that fell apart. And then you've got Memphis entering the picture. Does that tell you how badly Boston wanted to be able to acquire Porzingis? And why exactly do you think that he was their target? What about him are they thinking is going to be the difference maker?
I haven't connected with them since the deal, but at face value, Katie, you think about the fact that Robert Williams at his best has been an impact player, a game changer when he's healthy, but he's had a hard time being healthy. And so you doubled down a little bit on that kind of length, on that kind of defensive skill set. And then, and I think, but then it's more reliable because you have two instead of one. Somebody made the comparison to the Cleveland bigs in the idea that defensively, can you kind of do similar stuff on that end like the Cavs have, and they were elite on that end of the floor. Offensively, all kinds of just threats at the rim now. You can just throw that ball up and you can play the game that way. I think that the macro to me is from Brad Stevens down to Joe Mazzulla is the self-awareness to realize that it was time to change the attack, especially on the offensive end. They were so, Porzingis is going to stretch the floor, so he shoots threes as well, but they were so dependent on the three ball, and they were so predictable offensively in a kind of way that it kind of was their kind of faithful end. That I think this is a different look. And you're right, they showed a certain level of aggressiveness to get this deal done because the Brogdon health concerns blew up the first deal with the Clippers. As a quick aside, that opens up the door potentially again for a Chris Paul flirtation with the Clippers. Is like they have not checked their point guard box yet because of the Brogdon thing falling through. But yeah, the Celtics were obviously real motivated to get KP, and I'll be curious to see how it looks.
Sam Amick with us of The Athletic. I'm curious. I want to check in with you on something we haven't checked in on in a while. Domantas Sabonis entering the final year of his 4-year, $75 million deal he signed with Indiana. But under the new CBA rules, players can now sign contract extensions with a 140% increase compared to lower in the past. He could sign, for example, a 4-year deal with Sacramento, now worth $121 million. That adds 10. My question for you, are you hearing anything on that front at all? Any movements on a Sabonis extension? Or you think more than likely he's going to be a free agent?
Well, you'd be proud of me because I actually did somewhat check in on this from the woods up here yesterday. I didn't get real far. It was kind of a quick, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But when I say we, it wasn't, Domantas and the Kings. It was the media and the Kings. Meaning they're not really looking to pull the curtain back at this point.
Yeah.
And so, I couldn't really get a pulse on, I have for sure been assuming that even with the increase in the extension possibilities that Domas, especially with how he played last year, I mean, you can say what you will about the mismatch issues against Golden State, but he had a wonderful year. You're talking about getting MVP votes, on the back end of the MVP voting. So I've been assuming that he would be up next year, but who knows? I mean, if you have seen situations where guys decide that the pathway and kind of the shelf life of a particular group is such that maybe it's better to just lock in now. I don't anticipate that happening, but we'll see. Never say never.
And as we go into draft day or draft night.
So we're going to continue.
What?
I thought we had to go to break. So
I was saying it's draft day.
Yeah, I got to ask Sam about draft day. I've got it. So it's interesting to me, Sam. Obviously, we all know kind of what's going to happen at number 1. And this is the first time for Kings fans in a while where they have not been in the lottery. And this hasn't been a constant, ongoing conversation and breakdown of players and who and what and where. But are you getting any, or is it even normal, from your standpoint of your coverage specifically, to even go that deep into the first round to what teams are going to be doing outside of the lottery? Is there any murmurs about the Kings?
It's funny. It used to be in my past life. I had 2 years where I was at Sports Illustrated, and my main job was to try to keep up with all the draft experts. And to be honest with you, I felt like I did a pretty good job at it, and it was a fun thing. But man, it is a full-time job on its own to just you are constantly, because to your point, Katie, it's one thing we all can sit here and debate the top 5 guys. When you go deeper, it gets a lot harder, especially from an information standpoint. We joked about smoke screens earlier. Those are, you will have people who you trust and who you like, and you will later find out just lied bold-faced to your face. That is draft season.
Right.
And this year, for me, as it relates to the Kings, I mean, I definitely don't have any handicapping of who might go at their pick, if they might keep their pick. I know in general that it does sound as if the prospect of picks flying around left and right and teams changing places all over the first round is perhaps higher than ever. I think there's a lot of that discussion going on. And it's all intertwined with the possible, whether it's star player movement or just good player movement. I'm really curious to see, this is not really a draft thing, but the Kings have a pretty important 10 days here when it comes to not only what they do with their pick, but what they do with their small forward spot.
Yep.
Harrison Barnes' free agency coming up. I think, that talking to people around the league, that's definitely in question, whether or not he's going to be back. And then kind of parallel tracks to that, you had the Bradley Beal mention with the Kings. They continue to be tied to OG Anunoby, and I think some, efforts to make that happen, but not promising efforts, because there's a lot of teams trying to make that happen, and the Raptors are proving to be, their price tag's pretty high. So, this is that time of year where executives have got, they've got to operate mentally on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different tracks.
Sam Amick with us. Sam, we were talking about this yesterday. For you as a reporter, how do you compare the craziness, or should I say the craziest parts of the year when you go, let's say, draft day and, the day leading up, NBA free agency, and then NBA trade deadline. How would you rank those in terms of just insanity? For you,
draft day, free agency, and trade deadline.
Yeah.
Those three.
Yep.
I mean, trade deadline's fine because it comes within the flow and the rhythm of the regular season. We joked about me getting out to the woods a little bit. Like a little tiny getaway like this is literally born for me out of the fact that the way I cover the playoffs now, is like for the most part, tell the family goodbye. You're gone for most of 2 months.
Right.
And so you get home for like 5 minutes and you're like, oh my Lord, the draft is here. Yep. Are you serious?
Yep.
So to my company's credit, they have kind of said, listen, take a little bit of a low key approach to the draft. So free agency, I'd probably put that number one because you're still recovering from the playoff run. And not to dramatize it, we're not digging ditches here, but like, you also though are like, you're getting excited a little bit because the NBA media finish line is mid-July, is, post summer league. Like that's when you will finally say, okay, good job, everybody. It's been a good year.
You're on the home stretch right now.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. But you're juggling it. This is the regular life stuff. You're juggling it with, the kids are out of school, so now you don't have the house to yourself anymore. There's just a different kind of life flow as well. So, we'll get there. And then, we hit Vegas. I'm going, I think, on July 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And the free agency stuff will keep going. So free agency is probably number one because of the context around it and also the unpredictable. Trade deadline is a black and white thing. Like once it's done, it's done. Free agency just kind of trickles. You know what I mean? And then you decide, like, at what point do you stop caring about the players on the back end that are still unemployed? So that's just a different rhythm.
Yeah. And then you have 2 months? You get about 2 months of a break. July, August, September, or not even that long, huh?
It's more like, it's like a 6-week slow stretch. Probably not 2 months. If you go, definitely not. Mid-September, we're game planning about training camps and coverage and stuff like that. So, it's not a 9-to-5 deal, but I still enjoy it, which is a good sign.
As we wrap up with Sam Amick of The Athletic so he can begin his trip home, Chris Middleton opting out $40 million a year from the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton, 31 years old, will be 32 in August. Chris Middleton has played 33, 66, and 68 games to go with 62 in 2019-20 over the last few seasons. So what is this? Just your typical, I'll take less yearly for long-term riches? Is there something I'm missing here?
No, I think it is a little counterintuitive for a guy like that to opt out when he's coming off a not so great year.
Yeah.
I think, it's funny. I actually remember talking during the season to Draymond Green, of all people, about Middleton's expected free agency. And my thing, I was the one raising the question of, geez, are they as high on him as they were before? I think the answer is probably no. His point was, in the way the CBA works and the way the leagues kind of, just functions is like the Bucks, in the absence of some trade that brings in somebody better than Middleton, they're in a corner here. And I think Chris knows it, where I don't know what the number looks like, but you cannot have Giannis Antetokounmpo on a long-term deal with that question always looming about how long does he want to stay in Milwaukee.
Right.
And it's kind of, it doesn't matter if they've fallen out of love a little bit with Chris. Like he's still far better than any alternative based on what they are able to do. And that means that, he knows that. So he's going to get even more long-term security. And I expect that to happen because, you can't have Giannis going into next year without a guy who's been huge for their run, albeit a guy who's been in a diminished state, recently.
Right.
That's Sam Amick of The Athletic. You can go to theathletic.com or go to the app, subscribe, read, learn. Family just waiting around on you while you're doing this? Are you getting the eye roll?
We're good. I had time to finishing touches on the packing.
Okay.
I did my part. I think I'll get the thumbs up. Hopefully, we'll see. I'll let you know if that's not the case when I get back to the site.
All right, and the fishing
So
overall. I saw a nice trout that was
Yes.
caught and eaten. So it sounds like you guys got some sustenance up there as well. Congratulations.
5 poles in the water and 1 fish.
Yeah.
And I was telling my father-in-law actually that there's something kind of hilarious to me, that the difference between no fish for the whole group and 1 fish for the whole group is massive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my 14-year-old was on cloud 9.
Yes.
He hasn't caught a lot of fish. He gutted it himself, which is always a good moment. So yeah, that part was fun. And I mean, listen, I'm going to sound like a Sacramento kind of ambassador here, but it was a little reminder. This place we live in is not too shabby, especially when it comes to a place like this being 90 minutes away.
Yes.
One of the perks of living where we are.
And they can't hear. I'm not on speaker. They can't hear me, right?
They cannot.
Okay. How much was that fish at Safeway that you bought and snuck on the hook for everyone?
I did not buy the fish.
That is something that only Dave would do. Yes.
Oh, true story. And I know we got to go here.
Fine.
My late father once went fishing with a bunch of his buddies. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bridgeport Reservoir. It's
Yes.
way up in the mountains. They did fly fishing. They had a wonderful time. But he was not an avid fisherman. He didn't catch any fish, and he just decided that the picture was not going to look the same if he had nothing in his hand. So he might have stopped by the store and picked up a little something, and then fit right in when it was time for the group shot.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, dude, that's so great. That's what I'm saying. That's an awesome dad
Yeah.
move. What do you want?
Yeah, no question.
Oh, thank
If
you.
I bought a fish, Dave, it wasn't going to be that tiny one that I sent you the picture of.
That's true. That's actually true. Have fun up there. We'll have fun on your drive back, I should say. Say hi to the fam from both of us, and thanks for coming on, Sam.